Hi, my name is Katie Hodges, and welcome to my podcast. Today I have on my friend Megan May, and I'm so excited. She's an amazing photographer who I've known for a couple of years now, and I've just watched her and her work progress so much, and it's pretty awesome. And I'm just super pumped to have her on. So, hi, Megan.
Hi, thanks for
How are
having me.
you?
I'm
Thank
good.
you. Awesome. So basically, so you're a photographer, as I introduced you, but like, is that what you think about, like, of your as your career? Is that like what you call yourself? Like, like what do you do?
I feel like photographer is the most basic term, but anybody else who works as a photographer knows that there's so much more that goes into it. Like now you're a marketing specialist and now you have to become a videographer to remain relevant. You have to edit materials for other companies that may not be your work to continue to subcontract. I do modeling on the side, stylized shoots. Like there's so much that goes into it. But I mean, the short term, when somebody asks me what I do, is just a photographer.
So so when did you like start like shooting? Like even before you made it a career, like kind of when did you first pick it up?
I started shooting when my son was born and he just turned 9. So when he was born, I just started kind of taking pictures of him to document a lot of things. Like I don't have a ton of pictures from like when I was a kid, so I wanted to like make those memories and keep them. And then it like started doing photos of my friends' kids or family events and stuff like that. And it grew to like maternity. I shot weddings and did like the really mainstream photography like road. And I was really stressed out and I wasn't making that much money and there was no way it was ever going to be a career and I wasn't having fun. And then I separated from my kid's dad and I took a year off. And when I came back, I was like, man, I'm just going to shoot stuff that's like fun and I like to do. And if it works, it works. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. Because I was working as a full time bartender and I started shooting motorcycles. And ever since, it just kind of like went insane.
Yeah, that's definitely like a good point to like make, like, you could love the task, but you could not love the setting, or you could not love the circumstance, and it could take all the passion out of it for you. So, obviously, we have a lifestyle, things we love. Motorcycles are one of them. And was there a reason you started shooting motorcycles particularly? Was it just kind of like, because to me, like, your shoots are so amazing because so much of it too is like live action. Like there's so much movement to a picture, that to one of your shots. So it's like, to me, like, seeing your shoots, especially of like bikes or different events, is like, it's really artful. Like there's so much to it. It's so captivating, it really draws you in. And so, I mean, like, was there something about bikes, or was it just kind of like, I'm going to shoot stuff that I'm already into?
I think I was going through like a lot of finding myself in my separation and like being a single parent and learning like to find myself again. And I grew up around Harleys. My dad rode when I was a kid. So he also passed away when I was a kid. So kind of finding my way back to them as an adult like was kind of healing like my inner child a little bit. Okay. I knew somebody whose boyfriend could wheelie his Harley, and we went out on the lot, set it up. He came out with his girlfriend, and we did like a couple shoot with them, and then he rode the lot back and forth and wheelied. And I just had like a 150 millimeter lens. It didn't zoom in and out. Like I had never shot anyone in motion like that before. And we did it a few times, and he did a wheelie where he was like flipping off the camera, and I posted it on Instagram, and it just like went crazy. And I started getting like people in the motorcycle industry following me. I got invited to a bike night where I got really lucky, and a bunch of like the East Coasting guys and like people that were bigger in the stunt industry ended up being there, and I had the opportunity to shoot them right off the bat, which helped me out a lot, and it just kind of like went up from there.
So obviously now, I mean, it's not just like a little side hustle. Like, you've made it a career. This is your full time job now. And I mean, yeah, like you said, you said, oh, I got pretty lucky off the bat, but it's like, obviously, like, you had skill there, but like, your photographs and your quality probably wasn't where it is now. So like, when did you make it a career? And like, what have you learned since then? Has your photography changed since then? I'm guessing it has. I mean, like what did it take for you to like really make it a career, and like when did that finally happen?
I feel like once the photos started like getting attention, people started following me back. I was like, okay, maybe I could get better at this. Then you start seeing like other photographers work that do work in the motorcycle industry, and that inspires you to be better. And you kind of just continue to push yourself. I also got introduced to a company named Jasper Keys that's based in Denver. And I started like talking to them a lot. They ended up sponsoring a Formula Drift driver last year in the pro season, or I don't know if it was last year or the year before. But the CEO called me and said, "Hey, do you want to go on tour? We need to send a rep. You had met the team. I had met the team like when I had gone to Formula Drift just on my own just to check it out. So they had asked if I could be the rep that came out, which was really cool. And I went on a half season with Formula Drift. I told the bar I was working at, like, hey, this is going to be my schedule. And they said, we can't accommodate you. And I said, okay, bye. And I left, and I like, that's when it was like, okay, we're going to make this work now because this is the choice that we're making.
Yeah, it's a big risk. Like taking the jump to just, first of all, even start something. I mean, we were talking before this, and it's like, I was saying, like, you can't be afraid to look stupid, you know, because everybody starts somewhere. And you said that, yeah, if you're afraid to look stupid or fail, you're never going to do anything. So that's a big risk, you know, like, especially so early on.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like it's just if you don't take the risk, like you're not going to get that reward. Like I just started asking like, "Hey, can I get in here? Can I come? Can I get a media pass?" And like it just started working, and I ended up like getting in all these areas that like I never thought I would be able to shoot in ever, just because I asked to be there. And then you continue to grow and get better and meet people that can get you into other areas. And like if you're not willing to risk it, then why are you trying?
Well, a lot of people don't try. Like, it's so scary to try because it, like, once you start something, once you try, then it's like if you fail, it's on you, you know, and or you can try and blame other people, but it's like that takes so much power away from you. So it's like I know for me, like, spent I think years just like waiting to sit down and write the first page of one of my books, you know, like years just like not even gonna try. And so it's like just trying and like being able to put yourself out there is so hard, and it's like the first step. But like you're saying, it really shows that like if you do something and you're not afraid to like ask and just put yourself out there, that things can happen for you. But if you're not willing to do that, then definitely nothing's gonna happen for you.
Yeah, I mean, I always tell people the worst thing somebody can say to you is no. You know, hey, can I get into this event? Like, no, okay, that's fine. But at least you tried. Like,
Yeah,
for a million no's, you get that one yes that you really needed, and it gets you exactly where you're supposed to be. So always ask the question.
yeah, that's awesome. um so you mentioned that you model and you shoot. I don't really remember when you met me, or when we met, that you were modeling that much, but I've seen like a lot more shoots now. How is that's progressing, and your stuff in front of the camera looks great. So how is it like that different role switch? Did it kind of come along with more with you, you know, shooting more and stuff, being behind, and just like you said, networking, meeting people and stuff because you're sponsored by all these great brands? And then how did that feel, like kind of starting to play both roles and getting in front of the camera too?
It definitely has progressed. Like, I am not the most like you would think as a photographer. I know exactly what to do in front of the camera, but I'm just like everybody else where I like tense up and I'm not listening, and like somebody's trying to give me direction and I'm looking the wrong way. Like I'm very much like so awkward when I'm being photographed because I'm just like I don't view myself as a model. The only reason that I do model is because I have companies that I work so closely with and they like the style that I have and they ask me to do it, then I will. But I try not to like put myself in that position more than I have to just because like I feel so awkward. But I know that like that's just a me thing and everybody feels that way sometimes. And like that's just another one of those things like you have to push past to keep going.
That's so true, and I think it's really relatable what you're saying. You know, people think anybody who's in front of the camera, like they think that they're just so confident and like trying to show off or something like that. Like, I mean, I've run into this a lot. You know, shooting, it's hard. Like you can do it for years and it's still like you have that day where you walk out and you're like, I don't know what I'm doing here. Like it takes you at like an hour into a shoot to like warm up and finally get some good shots. And it's like, it can really come and go. It's not easy. And so like obviously you do shoot, you know, a lot of girls, a lot of couples, stuff like that. How do you help people? I mean, obviously individual shoots are different. Like there's little things like angles or move your leg or something, but like how do you overall like help somebody with their confidence when they're really, you can tell they're really struggling while they're modeling, or really struggling with just kind of like loosening up or showing anything that's visible and stuff. How do you help them with their confidence while you're shooting them?
Honestly, like I said, everybody struggles with confidence. I struggle with confidence sometimes. I literally had a photo shoot yesterday morning with one of my photographers who's photographed me for like 4 years. His name's Sean. And I texted him in the morning and I was like, did I literally like, I'm not feeling it today. Like you just have those days where you just sort of like, ugh, you know what I mean? Like you
Yeah.
look in the mirror and you're just not feeling it. And I was like, dude, I'm just not feeling it. I don't know if I'm going to come. Like, I don't want to do it. And he was like, no, 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 just come, just come. Like literally, I will send you the screenshot of the message. Like we went through all of this yesterday morning. And then like I went and I ended up doing the shoot, like the lingerie shoot that I was supposed to do, that I was like feeling super insecure about. I wore a motorcycle helmet the entire time and like did not take it off because I felt like if my face was covered, like I was good. Which is like, I feel like that's normal. Like if I'm photographing girls and it is a bike shoot, like I'll tell them bring a helmet. Like it's easier. It's easier when you don't have to worry about your face, and then you can warm up to taking it off and moving forward and like really connecting with the people that you're shooting and letting them know that like this isn't abnormal to feel that way, and like tell me what you're insecure about so that way I know, so we can work on it together. You know, is there a part of your body that makes you uncomfortable, or when you sit a certain way does your stomach fold and it makes you feel some type of way? Like we can cover it with your arm or do this or do that. One thing that I don't do and I won't do is Photoshop women's bodies. I don't think that that gives them a positive visual on what they're supposed to be. I feel like the whole reason you do those kinds of photo shoots is to see like how pretty you are. And you can't achieve
Absolutely.
that by photoshopping somebody's body. So I won't do that. I'll help somebody hide an insecurity or pose them in a more flattering way, but I'm not going to Photoshop somebody.
Yeah. Super awesome. I actually never knew that about you, but it makes so much sense just knowing you. Like, and I agree because um you know, it's just really hard these days with unfair beauty standards. And I
Yeah,
don't
that's
say that
what
in
it's
a
supposed
way,
to look like.
yeah, and I don't say that in a way like it's unfair. I guess I should rephrase that to like what I really believe, but it's like, you know, because if you work out a ton or you get surgery or something like that, and you really do look like that in person and you look amazing, and like, I just can't look like that right now. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know if I like the word unfairness necessarily, but I don't like the fakeness of looking completely different in person versus a photo or online. You know, I just don't think that's fair. I think that there are people out there who are just absolute goddesses, and yeah, we're never going to look like them, but like that should be okay. It's like we're all supposed to look different, and like, damn, if there weren't girls out there, like maybe I wouldn't try so hard either. You know, like it motivates me to
Yeah.
like look better, take better care of myself, you know, like, just so it's not that it's unfair, but it's just we're not all supposed to look like, we literally, even just our eyebrows, they're
Yeah.
sisters not twins. You think you can like imitate somebody else, you know, like
I
there's
mean, and
nothing
I
about
was
us.
like, I tell my photographers too, like, please, God, it is my biggest fear that somebody meets me in person that follows me on Instagram and they're like, whoa, you don't look like your pictures. Like, you know what I mean? I don't want that to happen. I'm so afraid of that, like, beyond afraid. I'm like, do not alter me. Do not try to make me look crazy. Do not smooth my skin too much. Do not like bleach the shit out of my teeth. Like, please don't do that.
So many people bash just like the tiniest bit of like lighting or airbrushing or something, but the picture still looks exactly the same. But that you know what I mean? And then there's other people who are like overdoing it and they're being glorified. So I really think like, as like you said, it's like just keeping it natural, but like there's nothing wrong with a photo looking good too.
I mean, like we all, as a professional photographer, we all, when I say Photoshop, I don't mean like, you know, there's a lot of us use Photoshop to color grade or smooth skin, because I do smooth the skin of my models. I smooth my skin when I do my photos because
Yeah.
the way that these cameras are made now, you can see every little pore. And I'm sorry, I'm not putting that on the internet. And I'm like,
Exactly.
it is what it is. But we
Yeah.
all brighten our eyes a little bit. We all smooth our skin a little bit. That's a part of the job. But when I like say Photoshop, I just like, I'm not gonna like make someone's butt look bigger or things like that. Like I'll go as far as like removing like stretch marks and smoothing that out because I kind of get that too. But that's pretty much as far as it goes.
Yeah, it's just, we don't need to bash like, you want a photo to look good, and I love how you're like being honest too about your editing, about your process, about your boundaries too, because I think that that's just what the industry needs, is just a little more transparency. That's really what it needs. It just needs honesty, because saying, "Oh, this isn't photoshopped," it's like everything is photoshopped.
It is.
It's like really, and being honest about like what somebody's going to get or what somebody's looking at, it's like, it's I think it really builds the best image for all people, because there's nothing wrong with, like you said, like the editing that you do, but like you said, you're not going to modify somebody's shape. You're
Right.
not going to make them look different. And I also think that's just a great expectation. People can know, like, yeah, of course we go to photographers. Like if you weren't going to pose me right, kind of give me the best angles, smooth me out, make me look really like glowing and good, like why would people get a photo shoot? It's like I can
Yeah,
do that
do
at
that at
home
home.
if I don't. Yeah, like that's what they want, and it's so nice to like just hear somebody be honest about it.
Yeah, and I mean, there are photographers that do alter someone's body shape and will do all of that stuff, and that's totally fine too. But that's just a boundary that I set for myself, and so like I'm just super straightforward about it.
Well, that's awesome, because it's your reputation, it's your career, and it's your vision and your art. So I mean, you're the entrepreneur. This is your business. This is your vision. And this is your passion. Like, you know what I mean? Like you said, you weren't very passionate about it. You kind of lost all interest in it early on when you were doing the stuff before the bikes, and it just wasn't fun. And so, you have to keep that your standards. You have to keep it alive for yourself. So like being an entrepreneur is not easy. And so many people will either lose their passion over something, or it gets hard and they quit, or it gets scary. Sometimes, especially with something like you, jobs are not, sometimes you make money, sometimes you don't. You really have to learn to budget. You have to learn how to spend your time wisely. You have to learn how to be disciplined. You have to learn how to time manage. You have to learn how to, work on weekends if that's the only shoots you got, and like then, edit through birthdays sometimes. So it's like, being an entrepreneur is not easy. Being your own boss is not easy. What are some of the things that have really, like, you're like, oh, I knew this would be hard, but like, okay, this is definitely something that I've really learned about like having your own business, about being an entrepreneur, or things that you had to learn. Maybe you weren't that good at them when you kind of first set out, like some of the things that you think made you a good entrepreneur, or that you're still like learning and working on, but that people really should know.
I think that it is definitely way harder than it looks. I mean, I would be lying if I said there weren't days where like my account is overdrawn or a shoot gets canceled that I was really depending on because there's something I have to pay for. Like that is not, there's no security. Like there is and there isn't. You know what I mean? But there's always something on the line. I don't have a 9 to 5. I don't get sick days. I don't get paid time off. Like I don't get vacation days. I got to figure that out and I have to budget for that. And that's something kind of like that I'm still kind of learning. I'm not the most responsible when it comes to money management, but
None of us are.
I'm figuring it out. Okay. Like I'm almost 30. I'm going to get it. But that's something that I'll always be working on. And I think like, it gets better with time, but that's something that was a huge just change. It's like, I'm not, when I was bartending 5 days a week, it was like, no problem. I knew I was going to make 4 or 5 this day and this day and that day. And I had sick days and like, it was I could take a day off and pick a shift up somewhere else, but this is not that. Like you really have to work hard and you can't just give up every time it's shitty or you have a client that you don't vibe with or a company drops you because it wasn't working out. Like you have to shift all the time. And that's like, I think it's just the constant like moving and adjusting and figuring out how to keep going because you could quit any day. I could quit and go back to bartending full time, no problem. But I don't want to do that. So it's a constant shift that like really you just have to be comfortable with things like not going your way and figuring it out. But it's like it's hard on relationships too. It was hard like finding someone that I could date that was cool with me, like being on my phone all the time. And it looks like I'm always on social media, but really I have to respond to these DMs because if I don't, they're gonna ask another photographer. And that person's going to get the job because I didn't respond first. There's like late nights editing. I can't go out ever on weekends because that's when I go to events, or that's when I book a bunch of jobs because everybody else works a 9 to 5. So I'm like gone a lot and I travel, and whoever I date can't always come with me. And it took a long time to find someone who was secure enough that I could date that would still allow me to be a model and do my job to the best of my ability, and was like secure enough to handle that. Like that was something that was a huge adjustment too. And like I didn't really realize when I started how hard it was going to be to find somebody who understood that I'm doing something and they're supportive of that.
Yeah, or I mean that's such a good point, or if you are with somebody and then you start something like that and it's like they just look at you funny because they can't understand it,
Yeah.
and it does people put a really negative image on any business that thrives in a social media market now, whether you are the photographer, you are the model, or podcasting even, like I've gotten lots of comments on like, oh, she's trying to be a podcaster now, ooh. So it's like people think that it's something that it's not, and it takes a lot of people to separate social media as a marketing tool that we have to use because we're not Coca-Cola and can't spend $10 million a year on ad companies. Like this is a tool. And, it's really hard for people, friends, relationships, family members to be able to separate the fact that this is just the way the world is now and this is the way the world is going. And it takes a lot for you to like, like know like this is what I'm using this for. This is a real thing that I have to do. It's really hard for me. You have such a great social media presence, and obviously you meet a lot of people on there. And something that I struggle with is like I can record these podcasts all day long and edit them in the dark, and that's all fine with me, and then posting them and stuff like that, but social media is still hard. Like I really, really struggle with that. And I don't think I've posted in like 2 weeks. And I'm supposed to be, doing more than that because I just really, I've used it as a scrapbook for my life and I always have. I've never really looked at it as a social thing. I've never really cared about any attention or likes or what anybody's comments, like I've just used it my whole life as like a digital scrapbook because it's up there, it's never going anywhere, and it's not just like a cloud, it's like my highlight reel, like my thing that I put together, that because after losing phones, computers, drives, all these things over the years, like if I hadn't posted them to social media, I wouldn't have them anymore, so like I've always used it as more of a scrapbook for myself, and not as any sort of social tool. And so really trying to switch gears and look at it as a tool has been really, really hard for me,
I mean, I totally get what you're saying, and I felt the same way for a really long time. But I think that the best way that you can approach that is exactly the way that you already feel about it. It is a digital scrapbook, and this is part of your life. And that's something that I tell people all the time too. I post a lot of just my work, whether it be my photography or me modeling for something, but I still have a life and I'm still a person, and I still share that I'm a mother on my social media. And I still, whether I post my kids a lot, not really, because that's really personal and I try to keep it separate, but I still have pieces of me that are real on there. And I think that that's like a huge thing. And I still go through like where I don't want to post for 2 weeks, or I didn't really like this shoot that much and I don't want to share it, or like having second thoughts. Everybody does that. Every artist does that because it's like the fear that you're going to be judged by other people. But at the end of the day, anybody that's doing something isn't talking shit about somebody else trying to do something. So if they have something to say, go ahead. That's fine.
Yeah, and I think it's really cool what you just said too. Like it's really, you said like this part of my life is personal, so I don't post it as much. And I feel like that's definitely what I'm struggling with. It's not, it's that I love this so much and I'm doing it for myself, so sharing it with the world is like my brain just can't seem to wrap its head around that yet, so I think it's a really great, like listening to you kind of talk about, you're like, even if you don't like this, shoot, or you're not feeling it this week, like you still have to post. Like it's a job, because that's what I'm like, how we got into this. It's on entrepreneurial. Like that's something you have to learn, or I have to learn. Sorry, not you. You do great at it. That's something I have to learn if you're going to be an entrepreneur, if you're going to have this and be accountable to yourself, it means you have to do it when you don't feel like it, or you don't really feel the need, or you're like, this is so good and I'm so happy, and you get your reward, you get your internal reward because you did the thing that made you really happy, you
Yeah.
know?
And I mean, sometimes it sucks. Sometimes I make a video and I'm super stoked and I'm really proud of it and I post it and it gets like 73 likes and I'm like, what the fuck? And it like makes you feel like shit. But then at the end of the day, I'm like, well, I like it and it's my page, so I'm just going to leave it up. And then it'll
Yeah,
be that one video that someone saw and they're like, hey, I want to hire you for a shoot. And that video that only got 73 likes still helped me get further in my career. But some
yeah,
like people that are looking at that aren't going to know that, but who cares?
absolutely. And that brought up such a cool point, which was something that Alex Hormozy talks about. I'm not sure if you heard of him. I'm pretty obsessed. He's like, when I first started on YouTube and posting, I he's like, I'd post a video and I get 13 views, and I'd be like, what the fuck? And then he's like, I remembered back to like when I was first starting in business, and if I had a room of people that I was selling to, 13 people, he was like, this is a packed room. So like you were saying, like, shift your perspective, like imagine sitting in a, like, you doing a gallery in a one little room, and 73 people showed up to look at your video, to look at your piece of art. Like, that would feel like a lot more than it is, like a lot more than it feels to you right now, just like looking at a number on a screen, like so many people like compare themselves or feel like they should be somewhere, or numbers matter in this way, but
It's hard
it's
not
so,
to. It's hard
yeah,
not to look at someone else's Instagram with their 130,000 followers and their 1.2 million likes or whatever. I don't have that. It's hard not
yeah.
to compare yourself, but I mean, you can only control so much and you're never going to get there if you like don't try.
How did it feel when you realized you were good? And I'm phrasing it like that, even though so many people that I've talked to are like, I still don't feel good, or I still don't feel good at what I do. Um, but at some point, you kind of realize, like, you have this like internal reward of like, not just like, oh, I enjoy this, but like, I am good at this. In some way, it feels different for everybody. Maybe they can't use that word or whatever. But yeah, like, when did you realize that you were good? And then how has that been a driver for you, or is that just a bonus?
It's hard because like you said, like everybody's like I still don't feel like I'm good. Like that's your worst critic. I'm so hard on myself. Like I just told you, I was at Nitro Circus Stockton in September and I got to shoot it and it was an incredible experience and I couldn't believe they let me in. And the whole time I was in there, I was like, man, somebody's going to realize I don't belong here. Like they're going to ask me to leave. But it was like the craziest thing ever. Like there's still moments for everybody that are surreal. But I feel like when I started realizing like that I was doing something was when like business owners that were hiring me for shoots started asking me for like advice. Like, hey, you do this all the time. I need your help. And I was like, oh shit, like I don't feel qualified for this. But like eventually, like you start to realize, like I can help people, and I am qualified for this, and like I can do this for a job, and like it's not all about like if you went to college or any of that stuff. Like you can get good at things if you put in the work, and I think it's really hard to tell yourself that you're good enough for stuff. But even if you don't think you're good enough, like I'm just going to keep going until I can't anymore. I'm going to ride this wave until it stops.
Yeah, exactly. And I just take every opportunity as a learning opportunity, that then I can get over like the humps. And also, like you said, like, everything takes work. If it was easy, everybody would do it, like, and that's what makes it so rewarding too, is like the work you put in changes you. The work you put in like works on you just as much as you work on it. And it really like builds you into a new person, and that should be something that like carries you along the way even when times are hard, because doing something like this, like anything in an entrepreneurial journey, usually like there's a lot of work that gets put in before you get some sort of external reward, before you get that like money that like now you don't have to worry and you can just kind of do this and sail through it, like, and for some people that never comes. So like valuing what you learn along the way, and the fact that you're working really hard at something, and understanding that that's what it takes, and not letting it take away from your passion, is something I'm still learning. But it's definitely like a key that you have to have. I mean, if you're only doing this for a result, then chances are the result isn't going to feel the way you want it to feel when you get there. And also, it's going to make everything so much harder along the way because all you're doing is looking forward. You're not taking that time to really put your like mind to the present situation and to like do the work that needs to be done now because you're always just looking in the future. So like hard work is what it takes. Learning every
And
day.
continuing like to put in the work when you've done it for so long, and like you do start to feel good about what you're doing, and you look at your work and you're stoked about it, like you start to feel like you deserve it, so then it's like I feel like that's a point too when like you realize like I am good enough, like I deserve this, I've worked really hard, I've put so much into it, I've continued to like watch videos and try to learn and get the next technique down, and the next, you know what I mean, there's like all kinds of things that you do that eventually like you put in so much work and you get far enough that you start to feel like you deserve the win. But celebrating all the small wins along the way is like the only way to make it. If you sit there and you're like, man, I wish like I just made more money, or I wish I had more accounts booking me, like you have to figure out how to get that, not just why you don't have it.
Yeah, exactly. And also, like you were saying, like celebrating the little rewards along the way. That's something that's so hard for people. People are really good at beating themselves up, but like patting yourself on the back is really difficult. I mean, it's still difficult for me, because like you said earlier, we're our worst critics, and so like how did you learn to celebrate those little things? Like you said, like how did you learn to like be present in those moments? Did that always come easy for you? Because so many people quit because they just can't figure out how to reward themselves along the way, because a reward in this sense like we're talking about isn't like, oh, I booked this thing, or I made this check, so like I'm gonna go out and like party and spend a bunch of money. Like we're not talking about those rewards. We're talking about like rewarding yourself internally, learning to like love it, learning to be present, learning to like sit there and realize like, wow, this is really good. Like this, and appreciate the like work that you put in, and like look at something and be like, this is really good. Like, was that something that came
Um,
easy to you, or did you have to learn that along the way?
I mean, like, if I called my mom and was like, "Oh my gosh, I'm gonna get into Nitro Circus, like they're gonna let me shoot," she would be like, "Okay," like you know what I mean, like, cool, whatever, like would have nothing to say. But I learned that if I called like my friends that were photographers, or my friends in the motorsports industries, or my friends that were also entrepreneurs, when I was excited about something, and I had to do it right away before I started feeling stupid about it, like if I got excited, I was like, oh, okay, maybe this is a good one. And like, I would call one of my friends that was an entrepreneur, like that I knew would be stoked for me. And then they would be like, we would talk about it for a little bit, and it would give me the time to feel like it was okay to be excited. You know what I mean? When you call those friends that are like genuinely supportive of you, like it really takes a village for anything that you do. And you can't do it by yourself. Like you have to have help, and you have to have friends that are there to support you and hold you up and like hold you accountable and tell you you're doing a good job. Like it really makes the biggest difference.
Yeah, having a community of people, especially too because you can learn something from everybody. I always say like nothing's wasted. I got that from a movie, of course. I, but nothing's wasted. Like you learn something along the way, and like you can learn something from everybody. But having people who are truly in your corner and aren't just mentors, or aren't just, people that you admire or that you're working under or something like that, having people that are in your corner to bounce ideas off of or bounce your wins off of, man, that's huge. Like that was such a cool point that you just made, until you have to do it right away before you start to feel like dumb about it or something, or start to like think about it too much, like, and
Yeah.
getting to talk through that, like, what an incredible little insight. So thank you for that, because I don't do that enough, like I work in the dark a lot. It's kind of my
Yeah,
thing.
I get it. I get it for sure. I mean, I don't know. Just being honest.
I love it. That's what we're here for. Nobody's open enough these days, Like why are we all hiding everything? Doesn't
I don't
doesn't benefit
know.
anybody. It doesn't benefit yourself, and it actually like shuts you off to people who could relate to you more, or making more of those friends, like finding more of those people who are like, if you never put yourself out there, then nobody ever has a chance to support you. And you might find like people are really inspired by what you're doing, or they're super pumped for you, or they have something to add. Unless you put yourself out there to do that, then you can't really find that. You can't relate to people, and people can't relate to you. And I feel like so many like people are just so scared. I'm scared of putting myself out there, because you don't really even getting no reaction is scary. You know what I mean? So
Because
you're
you
not
feel like you
necessarily
did something wrong. Like, this didn't work for me. You feel like you did it wrong. Like, why didn't, you know what I mean? It's hard. It's hard to do that. And it's hard to do that like repetitively. You know what I mean? Because it takes a lot of things that feel like losses to get a win, but it's not. It's just a lesson.
exactly. And the repetition too, like habits, making things a habit and doing them over and over again is what gets you results. Like any, I know that doing something just once, like the chances of you getting result or really mastering it in that one time is, very dismal. So, like doing things over and over, repeating the habit, making it a part of your life is what's going to build it into that structure. So, you're in an industry that has a lot of technology behind it, and you were just kind of talking about like, keeping up with new techniques, watching videos. I know that technology is hard for me, it's hard for a lot of people, but also just changing industry as well, the world changing. So many people can get good at one thing in one way, and then something new comes along that changes their entire industry. Or you have to constantly be learning, you have to constantly be going through this like cycle of adapting to what's available now. You can't just be the master of one thing and then stop there and expect to stay relevant. So how is that a priority for you, or is it just kind of something you do naturally where you're constantly looking for like the new camera or the new light setting, or the new editing program or the new kind of technique, like you were saying? Like, this is an industry where you constantly have to learn new things. And do you have to make that a priority of like set that in, or is it just something that is comes with the territory and you just have to do it?
Well, it's that's a hard question. Like earlier, how I was saying, like when you decide you're going to be full time and you're going to become an entrepreneur, and this is what you're going to do, and you're going to take the leap. It's ever changing, and you always have to continue to shift if you're going to grow and if you're going to succeed. Because if you stay stagnant the whole time, like that's not going to go anywhere, and you're never going to make a living off of it. You're going to eventually have to go back to what you were doing before or do something different. But it's really hard, especially in photography. Photographers are a dime a dozen. They are everywhere now. Cameras are so good. You could take a good photo without even trying. So with the market that's so saturated, and equipment plays such a factor, I'm still I still have two kids I have to worry about first. I can't spend 10 grand on a new camera every time it comes out, and I don't have the best lenses. I'm not a liar. Like, I work with what I have, and it works well because I'm have such an open mind to learning other things. Like, even though I don't have a $20,000 camera, I can get a $20,000 photo if I know how to work my camera the right way. So like watching videos and figuring out what you can do and not focusing on like what you can't achieve makes such a huge difference. And then like I've shot natural light for a really long time. My Reese just like bought a flash to like try it out. Well, one of my buddies bought it. We played with it in his garage so much and realized like it made our photos so much crispier. And with the dark lighting, especially with the moodiness of the motorcycle industry, it helped. So I like invested in a flash, and like now I have a flash. I didn't have a $10,000 camera, but I bought a $500 flash that makes my photos better. You know what I mean? Like, there's adjustments you can make to continue to grow, even if like the easy option isn't a choice for you. So it's like, I feel like it's in the back of your mind that it's something that you don't have a choice. You have to keep progressing, and you have to look, and you have to watch YouTube videos, and you have to ask your friend, hey, how did you do that? Or what transition did you use? Or can you help me with Premiere Pro when you're video editing? Because as a photographer, now you have to do video too. Otherwise you're irrelevant. So now you're learning video, and it's like, you know what I mean? Like, you got to ask questions, and you can't be afraid to ask for help. And that's something like I'm really bad at, is putting my pride aside and like grabbing somebody I don't know and be like, hey, how'd you do that? You know what I mean? Like, sometimes I'm really good at it and sometimes I'm really not, but like, you just kind of gotta put that I'm gonna look stupid or I'm gonna feel stupid in the back of your head. Just like I said, like, if you look stupid, oh well. If this person doesn't want to help me, oh well, at least I asked. And then you can go home and try to figure it out anyway.
Yeah. Does it still like, does learning new stuff like still get you excited? Because some people just do it because they have to, because they want to stay relevant. But I feel like, for me at least, like when I figure out something new, when like I find a new technique or I get this new thing, like it actually makes me more excited to like sit down and learn that and like make my work better, like it pumps me up more. And I feel like so many people don't see like naturally get that. And
But
so I
it's
feel
because doing
really.
something that you're passionate about. That's why when you learn something, you get excited and you want to do it. It re-sparks your creativity. You know what I mean?
So
Like, it's
you
easy.
still feel like that? you still
Yeah,
get
it's
that like juice.
mm-hmm. Like you get that one shot that you're like, fuck yeah, I just fucking killed that. Like I want to go home and I want to edit it right now. But like it's easy to be uninspired when you're doing the same thing all the time. And it's easy to like become stagnant. You just don't care anymore. And then you find that one thing that like changes your look on it because you learned something new and you can get excited about it all over again.
Yeah, so true. And also like you can feel yourself getting better. You can
Mm-hmm.
feel you're like, "Oh my god, that feeling of like I just learned something." And like you said, like you played with the flash, a bunch, and then you finally like got it, and it's like that feeling of like, "Oh my god, the work I just put in and it worked" is so
Yeah.
rewarding.
It's that I deserve it feeling because you put the work in and then you're like excited again.
Yeah, that's awesome. So what are you working towards? Like, what are your goals, or what are your next projects? Just like kind of something, anything of like what you're working on now or what's next for you.
Um, I have a couple things going on. I the start of the season is so hard because like the season hasn't started yet really for motorsports. It's still January. Um, and especially with motorsports like in the bike industry, it's like you don't really know for sure like when an event is or what is going on or if the permits came through until like it happens, you know? Like there's so much up in the air. So like the event season is hard because I won't know what's going on at all and I'll be like in such a panic like how am I going to pay my bills all year? And then I'll get like a bunch of contracts like hey, we need you at 8 events, hey, we need you at 6 events, hey, we need you at 3, like, and everything's fine. But it's like the beginning where I just don't really know yet. I know that I'm going to have a pretty full season with a team called Limiters Unlimited, which is based in Grass Valley. They have a mechanic shop up there and a stunt team, and they are doing stunt shows and like vending and stuff like that at Harley dealerships up here in Northern California. And they're really cool. They like give BMX bikes to kids at every event, and they like really gear them towards families. And it's like they do a lot for the community and like charity work and stuff like that. They're donating 100% proceeds of one of their events in October to a child who needs medical attention. So like I just like working with people like that are doing things for the community in like a positive way. So I'm really excited about my season with them. I'm hoping to work more with the Brawl this year with Ride and Destroy. We'll see. Um, I'm hoping to do more with Jasper Keys this year, but I kind of have to see where the season goes with them. I know they have a lot of stuff going on and they're opening a bar in Denver this summer. So I'm trying to make it out to the bar opening for that. I'll be at Live Fast this year for sure. Got to go to that every year.
Yep.
Um, I don't know. I just feel like every year is like I'm trying to figure it out. Like 2 years ago, I went everywhere and I did Sturgis and I did Arizona Bike Week, and I like even if I wasn't paid to go to these events, I like made sure that I got there so that I was like continued to be relevant. And I spent a lot of my own money. And then last year, I refused to go anywhere that I wasn't paid to go. So this year, I'm trying to find like a happy medium. So I am going to go to the Hive Crew, the Swarm on Memorial Day weekend in Utah this year. I've never been. I'm really excited for that. Um, but I mean, I feel like I try to just look at like my year one thing at a time. Like, obviously, it would be a freaking dream to shoot like the X Games or something like that. But we'll
You
get there
will.
when we get there. We'll get there
You
when we
will.
get
But
there.
that was such a great point you just made too, of like how, when you were a couple years ago, you spent a lot of your own money to go to events to stay relevant, to meet people, and like then you transition to like, okay, now I'm not going to go to anything unless I'm paid. And you said now you're going to find a happy medium. But I think that's such a great transition for anybody listening who's like, when do I start like charging for my time even, or
Yeah.
when do I raise my prices, or when do I, decide like now I'm not going to do anything for free anymore.
I mean, I found things that just worked for me. And like I always tell people, never underestimate the value of free. So like don't do everything for free, don't get taken advantage of. But like when I went to Arizona Bike Week a couple years ago, I paid for all my gas to get out there. I stayed with a friend. I didn't have any paid jobs. I went out there to meet business owners in the motorcycle industry in Arizona so that I could continue to network and grow my demographic outside of California. That was something I chose to do for me. It ended up working out pretty well and I made friends, and like, no, you have to try. Same thing. I paid for myself to go to Sturgis a couple of years ago. And then last year, because I spent so much money the year prior, I was like, I can't waste money this year. And I ended up still getting paid to go to a few events, but it's like, you might have to sponsor yourself sometimes and you might have to take the risk and do it. And like, if it's something that you're passionate about and you want to do, it's worth it, because it's still fun. I'm still excited
Exactly.
to go. It's still a good use of my money because I'm putting it towards me.
Yeah, putting it towards your future. And I mean, like you said, like you get to network and meet people, and you do get more work out of it. And yeah,
Hmm.
putting in the work, like not just for the money too, because like you said, like you're passionate about it, like is something that is hard at first when you're like worried about bills, like you said, but it's just doing that is going to keep you passionate too, because you're doing stuff that's not just for the money. You're
Yeah.
doing events that you want to go to even if you couldn't, and you're not just sitting at home like, they didn't invite me. It's
Yeah.
like it's you're doing it because you love it.
Yeah, I mean that's like the Swarm. I don't know if you've heard of it. It's just like a ride in Salt Lake City that the Hive crew puts on, and I saw videos of it last year, and it's like this huge ride, and it looks really cool. But it's not like a sponsored ride. It's just these guys that put it together, and a whole bunch of people come out and ride. So it's not like you. I'm not really going to get paid to go unless the sponsors who sponsor the riders need content, and then they can subcontract me while I'm there. But I want to go because I saw the photos from last year, and I'm bummed that they're not mine. So I'm going to go. And I made friends with people that are out there and they're going to let me stay at their house. So that's going to cut an expense and like you figure it out. But I'm like, sometimes you just got to like, I need to be there.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's your choice too. It's this, you're the one behind the wheel in this. I mean, this is why you did what made the jump or did this, is probably one of the reasons is because you want to have that control over your life.
Yeah. It gives me a lot of freedom with my kids too. Like I work a lot when they're with their dad. And then when they're home, like I have all the freedom in the world to be a present parent and to be here for them and to like show them new experiences and teach them that it's okay to take risks too.
Well, so thank you so much for coming. Where can everybody find you? So like Instagram, I don't know what other platforms you're really on, but like where can people like reach out, connect to you? I'll put the links down in the description as well, but like where can people find you?
Honestly, all the only social media platform I really use is Instagram, but my Instagram is at megan.n.may. Um, Sometimes I'm shadow banned, so it might be hard to find. But there's like a website on my link tree too, where you can email me and send me inquiries and stuff like that.
Awesome. Yeah. So they just click on your bio to get that website. Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming, Megan. I love you so much. I'm so proud of you and inspired by you. Like seeing, I mean, what did we meet, like 4 years ago or something like that, 3 years ago? And it's like seeing like the progress of you making this a full time career, how incredible your shoots are, like seeing you travel so much. It's really inspiring. And I'm so glad that you came on and talked to me today.
Thanks for having me. I'm super proud of you. I
Thank
can't wait
you.
to see you soon.
Yes, we'll have to see each other in real life.
I know.
IRL. That's what the kids say, right? IRL.
Yes.
um, awesome. Well, my name is Katie Hodges, and thank you for coming to my podcast and watching Megan and I hash it out. Bye, guys.